welcome to today's session by rootfabric.com. In today's session, we're going to talk about variables in Python. So, a variable in Python is when you give something a name and then you give it a value. So, if I had x equals 10, I created the variable x and then I gave the value 10. But in Python, something else is also going on here. You're not just giving x the value 10, you're also giving it the integer data type. So an integer is any whole number that is positive or negative, also including 0. A float is, if you did y equals 10.523, a float is a number that's can also be positive or negative, but it has a decimal part. So these are variables. You're giving them values, and then you're using the assignment operator to do it, which is the equal sign. Just be a little bit careful because double equals is the way you actually test for equality, while single equals is assignment. So equals is the assignment operator, which means you use it to give things values, and then double equals is the equality operator. So you're testing if things are equal. So often when you're first getting into programming, you can mix these two up. It's an easy way to make an error. And then one other variable type we'll talk about is the string type. So if I had z equals hello with quotes, a string is just a sequence of characters, so it's used for like words or sentences. So z is the string type. So there's a couple other cool things you can do with assignment in Python. So you can assign multiple variables, you can assign values to variables all at the same time in one line of code. So like one way you could do it is if you had a, b, c equals 10, 20, 30. In one line of code, what this would do is a is given the value 10, b is given the value 20, and c is given the value 30. You could also do this. Whoops, do d equals e equals f equals 50. This line of code assigns 3 different variables, all the value 50. So these are multiple assignment. Just a shortcut you could use. So naming in Python, when you name variables, generally you want to give variables, and again, a variable is just a placeholder for a value. Generally, you want to give variables names that are very clear in what they represent, so that if someone else is reading your code or you're just reading through it later on, it's very clear what you're referring to. So if you had a name, you'd want to give the variable name like my name or something. So my name equals Jerry. My name isn't Jerry, but it's very clear that this variable represents a name. And it's okay to use single letters for plain numbers if you're doing mathematical operations, just like variables in like actual math. But yeah, use names that are very clear about what the variable represents. When you're naming a variable, you're only allowed to use letters, numbers, and the underscore character. So must use letters, numbers, and the underscore character. And variables are not allowed to start with numbers. So again, these are all valid variables. You could have, if you had another name, you could do my name underscore 5 equals Mike. This is valid. If you just put another number, it'd be valid. But what you can't do is you cannot put any number at the beginning, because this is unclear to the language what you're trying to do. So yeah, no numbers at the beginning. You can have an underscore at the beginning if you want. Variables are also case sensitive. So if you had my name is Jerry up here, and then you had in caps my name is Mike down here, and then you print and you print and you run, you'll see Jerry and you'll see Mike. So even though these are spelled the same, because the cases are different, this is lowercase and this is uppercase, they're two different variables. So that's what it means by variables are case sensitive. And then one other thing with variables is, what was I going to say? I don't know. Get back to this in a second. So, oh, I was just going to say, naming conventions in Python, there's specific, there's general standards that you should be using in your code to name variables for different things. You can look that up online. I'm not going to get into it right now, but it makes it a lot more helpful for other people reading your code to follow standards. So there's also strings. We made a string variable up here. So if you're creating a string variable, you can use single or double quotes. So if you had z is equals hello, if you bring this down here, you could also do this, z equals hello. This is fine. It's nice that Python, if you're creating a string, it doesn't matter if you use single or double quotes, because it makes it a lot less confusing. You don't have to worry about whether it's a valid string or not. And there's also string concatenation. So if you're adding two strings together, Python would put one string attached at the end of the other. It would append it. So, well, if you did it using the addition operator. So if you had my name, if you wanted to print my name plus z, you see Mike hello. So you concatenated these two strings using the addition operator. If you use that operator for regular math, it would be the same thing. So if you had print x plus y, you ran, you'd have 20.523, which is these two numbers added together. But if you tried to add a number to a string, you did print my name plus x, and you run. On line 38, you get an error because my name is a string and x is a number. X is 10. So because this operator is used for two different things, it's used for both mathematical addition but also string concatenation. If you use it with both a string and a number, the operator doesn't know what to do. It doesn't know which one to do. So if you wanted to add these two things together, you'd either have to make one a string or make the other a number. So you can't make a name a number, but what you can do is you can make x equals 10 into a string. So if you did this and you ran, it's going to mess things up. We'll just leave this as 10. And let's just say down here we set x equal to the string 10. Then we run, you get Mike 10 because it concatenated 10 onto the string Mike. So that's just something you have to be careful about with the addition operator and making sure the variable types match with operators. So one last thing, there's scoping with variables. So anytime you create a variable, it has a scope, and all scope means is that's where the variable is allowed to be used. So if you create a variable in a main program, it has global scope. That means it can be used anywhere in the program, including functions. But if you create a function and you create a variable within the function, it has local scope. So what that means is that variable is only allowed to be used within that function and not anywhere else. So if I created a function and I created the variable j and I gave it the value 200 and then I print j, this would print the number 200. Give it a second. Hello. I gotta call the function first. Function run. So this prints 200. So I created a function, I created a variable within the function, I printed within the function, and then when I call the function, it'll execute the code, and then you'll see the 200. But that 200 only exists inside the function, and the only way to get to it is by accessing the function. So if I try to print j out here, I get an error. It says j is not defined on line 47. So it doesn't know, to this print statement, j doesn't exist because j is only inside the function. It doesn't have global scope. But if you wanted to print j outside the function, you could do it with the global keyword. So if you did global j equals 200, and you did print j out here after you call the function, it's going to be lowercase. It still prints 200, even though the print is outside the function, because you made j a global variable. And then also, just like we were saying, global variables can be used within functions. If you wanted to print x in here, x was assigned up here, but now we're going to use it in the function. So if you run, you'll see a 10 above the 200. So that's this 10. So the global variable x is allowed to be used inside this function because it's global. And then if you wanted to change the value x inside the function, you could do this. Get rid of the j's. You do global x, and then x equals 20, and then print x. Get rid of this. Now you have 20. So x was 10 here, you use it throughout the program, then at the bottom you made a function, and in that function you referred to the global variable x by saying global x. You set x to 20 instead of 10 now, and then you printed 20. So yeah, it prints 20. So yeah, that just about does it for basic variables in Python. I hope this information was informative. If you want to check out more on Python and variables and get a more in-depth explanation, you can check out our courses at rootfabric.com. So thanks for watching. Thanks, bye.